friends, welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the podcast where we take the movies we love, break them apart to find out what gives them their magic. Weird science magic, weird destroying every rule of screenwriting magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined this glorious month by our special guest curator and co-host, Carmelita Valdez McKoy. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, friends.
So we're finishing your curation. The pod gets a new face. I think everyone knew where this was going the first time they heard it. This had to end in a titular face-off. Nick Cage, John Travolta, 1997's Face Off, directed by John Woo. Honestly, shocked we have not gotten to this. But before we do, a little business. Everyone, please go to patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Support the show over there. Help us grow the show. Help us keep the lights on. Help us prime the pump for the October Mega Marathon, which is now way closer than it appears.
Oh, so close.
So close. We already have episodes in the can, also featuring Carmelita. She's going to be a prominent figure in our October Mega Marathon, as always. So if you like that, you're going to want to be over there. We have a huge Patreon exclusive library. We've got the Tales from the Grift miniseries. We're ripping through season 4 of Tales from the Crypt to prepare for October. Commentaries. You can even have us program a double feature. We have a wonderful community of friends over there. We'd love you to join. For very little money, you can help us out a ton. It means the world to shows and podcasts like us. So thank you in advance for your support. The YouTube is Film Alchemist. Subscribe there. We're on all the socials you're on, including TikTok, Instagram, all that shit. Find us wherever you are. We're easy to get a hold of. We love to hear from you. Do all the sharing algorithm stuff that we have to kneel before and worship. The email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Make sure you go to misfitparade.net so you can see the films that I'm helping make. Our film Sugar Tits is out making the festival rounds, and we may be at a festival near you. By the time you hear this, we will have filmed, fingers crossed, barring apocalypse or something, the first segment of our anthology horror feature film. So lots of fun stuff going on at misfitparade.net. We would love to have you join the parade over there. Also, make sure you check out the video work I'm doing for Looper. It's just me standing in a room talking about flicks. So yeah, my friends at Looper were nice enough to hire me over there to do some work. So go check that out. Go find Carmelita, Twitter and Letterboxd at Carmelita Says. All right. That was a lot of business.
It has to be done, though.
It has to be done. So that was the business segment of the pod. I think Face Off can only best be described as the shenanigans version of the pod.
Absolutely.
Full confession, this movie's fucking long. So it's not one that I rewatch super often.
Same.
It's been a long time since I've seen Face Off. Went to turn it on. My wife's like, I've never seen Face Off. I'll watch it for you. Or watch it with you. Immediately, the first 10 minutes, right? The opening with the priest dance, the priest headbang, Nicolas Cage dancing, whatever his face is in this movie, whatever his hair is in this movie.
Yeah.
Grabbing the choir girl's butt cheeks and then looking up to God with this hilarious face. Everything on the plane. It's one of those movies it's impossible to prepare someone for Face Off, because this is a 90s epic action thriller. You got Travolta and Cage, two of the biggest stars of their era. But this movie is so fucking poppycock. There's so much shenanigans.
It's bizarre.
It has this Dennis the Menace, Calvin Hobbesian energy. It is fucking insane. And that's before we get to, because this movie goes on for a long time before we get to the Act 2 break, as it were, where we set up what is maybe the most fucking asinine plot device in the history of movies. And so it's one of those movies where like it does everything in the most annoyingly childish way, it feels like. But it's like you had that, you know how the Ghostbusters had the little like things where they could detect ghost energy?
Yes.
If you had one of those that just detected like fucking awesomeness, it would explode watching the movie Face Off. It's such a bizarre mix of elements that just makes one of the most fun movies ever. So Carmelita, let's just start with why Face Off. This was part of the curation. I'm assuming this is part of why you want to do this one.
Yeah.
What do you love about Face Off?
Okay. Faithful Film Alchemist listeners, you know me. If I can sneak a Nicolas Cage movie in, I'm going to do it.
I feel the same.
I'm going to
Any
find a
Cage
way.
is good Cage, yeah.
I mean, that.
So we've done an entire Nicolas Cage month. We've done Nicolas Cage with you. You were on our Willy's Wonderland show.
Mm-hmm.
We've accidentally done Con Air twice as an episode and a commentary. How the fuck we've never done Face Off is absolutely insane.
It was time.
Because this might be the most Nick Cageiest Nick Cage of all.
Oh, man.
Like, if you were ranking what's the most Nick Cagey Nick Cage, like, Bad Lieutenant Port of Call is like a weird, like, late stage. He's almost a cartoon of himself. And this one become, like, to me, like, the two, like, that's where, like, a lot of your gifs and your memes come from. But this might be, like, the most Nicolas Cage Nick Cage we've ever seen.
This is what people think of, I think.
If you were to show them, because my wife asked me a question last night, and I wanted to run this by you. She said, if you could be one actor, and I'm assuming this meant, like, their career, not, like, them outside of the thing, right? And she said between Nick Cage and Keanu Reeves. And I go, that's not even a debate. I was like, I want to be Nick fucking Cage. I was like, watch the first 20 minutes of this movie. I was like,
yes,
you could roll all of Keanu Reeves' movie into a ball. He doesn't have one fucking thing as cool as the opening 20 minutes of Face Off. Not even close. Like, yes, I get to be in The Matrix and John Wick. I get to be tall and cool and in a band and no karate. Whatever. Nick Cage is fucking cooler on screen than Keanu Reeves.
You know, the thing about Nicolas Cage, regardless of what the project is, some of the movies he's done, the material is excellent. Sometimes the material it's clearly just a paycheck.
He had a phase where, like, almost none of the material was good. Like a real dark phase.
But he always, regardless, brings everything he's got. And he's taking big swings. He's trying things.
Yeah.
He's being creative. He's kind of playing with the character, trying to make it more interesting.
Yeah, even if he's doing like a clear paycheck movie, he is never phoning it in.
No.
Nick Cage is always going for it in a way that very few actors can, because it seems wrong a lot. Where you're like, you shouldn't be going that fucking big or hard.
I fucking love it. I
but
love
when
it so
he
much.
does it, you're like, that's exactly why you hire. It's like Nick Cage and Pacino.
Yeah.
Are the two that get away with, like, going so fucking over the top.
Yes.
But, like, they can do that kind of high wire act in a way that a lot of actors can't.
And that's what you want when you cast Nicolas Cage in something. That's what you want.
Which also makes it a weird choice that Travolta was the other actor for this. Because they're not physically that similar, it felt like.
They're not, no.
Because to me, I was like, who else would you have cast in this era? And to me, it felt like Bruce Willis would have been a great Sean Archer. Right? Like, he kind of has that, like, extra silliness that I think, not that Travolta was bad, but there are definitely moments where he's trying to do Sean Archer's body, Castor Troy's vibe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's like seeing the zipper on a Godzilla suit. You're like, it's fun for what it is, but, like, I don't think Travolta was the man for this role.
I like Travolta in this because I can tell that he's having a really good time. He's having fun in a way that he hadn't maybe since Grease, you know?
Oh, yeah. Pulp Fiction, maybe. But I was saying this would be the greatest, just like behind the scenes documentary. If someone would have just followed them and made like a My Dinner with Nick Cage and just watching those two locked in a room doing whatever the fuck they do, you know, drinking, smoking, whatever, and just like going through the script together and reading the lines back and forth, like trying to mimic each other.
And there's some great lines in this.
I would have watched a whole fucking 2 hour, like, weird, bizarre documentary on their journey to become each other. Because this was clearly a Nick Cage was the A star.
Yeah.
And he's driving all the choices. So I would love to have watched Travolta just trying to like sink into Nick Cage's head.
Yes.
Like it's one of those things you're like, God, that must have been like, what a great thing for an actor to be like, wait, I just have to hang out with Nick Cage and I get to do Nick Cage shit. Because again, when you see Travolta do it, it's off. You're like, this isn't right. Like in this era, he was Michael. He was Phenomenon, John Travolta, right? Like,
yes.
Our mom still wanted to like hook up with him, but he's a little chunkier, right? And you know, he's got the gray old man hair coming in. You're like, all right. And then to your point, it must have been a real breath of fresh air.
It had to have been, and I think it shows that he's enjoying himself.
Yes, I agree. That's kind of a way to always think about Nick Cage. It always looks like no one's having more fun.
Yeah.
Than Nick Cage. Like he's always for certain having the most fun. This is the thing. It's a big, unwieldy movie. I don't even know where the fuck to start. It's so, let's start here.
Okay.
If you were really to think about it, like really put the screws to it, I would argue this is the dumbest plot device of all time.
Yes.
It doesn't really matter. But like, let's just kind of go through it. They get Nick Cage, but there's a bomb, right? Him and his brother have set a bomb somewhere in Los Angeles.
Evil masterminds.
Yeah, they're terrorists for hire, right? They say some rednecks gave him $10 million to blow up L.A. All right, they arrest him. He's in a coma. The brother won't talk without talking to his brother who's in a coma. They don't know what to do. This is where it gets crazy. So there's a surgeon who's like, I am a tactical surgeon. We see that they're 3D printing ears. You're like, all right, that aged pretty well. And he's like, what I can do is just completely plastic surgery your body up. Give you Nick Cage's face, abs, hair, chest hair, everything.
The chest hair. You have to include the chest hair.
Gotta have everything, Cage, right? In case his brother's like, show me your tits to prove you're my brother. You know, like why that would come up, I don't know. Maybe they're in the shower at prison. So that's just a fucking wild start, right?
It's crazy.
2, the fact that no one can know about it. It feels like you could just let all of the FBI know they were doing this. Here's another question I had. I was like, so I'm watching it and I was like, what are CCH Pounder and Robert Wisdom's jobs? That they're not just like in the prison with him. They're not glued to him. There's not like a microphone on him. It feels fucking insane. They're just like, we're going to drop you in this weird supermax science fiction-y prison with boots and like no one else can know, just the 3 of us. So that when they round us up for the world's saddest musical chairs game, they can make sure no one fucking knows. How about this? They don't fucking lock up Castor Troy. They just let him have a room with the phone. And all right.
Right.
Before I just go through this beat by beat, Carmelita, walk me through when Face Off, because Face Off kind of starts like, you know, a dad movie, just a lot of action, cops, robbers. The question I have that I guess every time I watch this is, how much does the face swap add to this movie? For it being the dumbest, because it is one of those, you're like, they say you got to give every movie one. Once this plot starts, there's like 50 questions that you're like, these are not answerable now.
Yeah.
These just aren't answerable, right? Like Nick Cage is just like, I won't tell my wife even, who's not connected to anyone, so that when the bad guy comes home in my body, he can fuck my wife. And by the end of the movie, she has to forgive me for that, kind of. Or he could, like, lick my daughter. Like, so here's the weird thing. There are, like, 50 questions you can't answer. So Face Off isn't a you got to give us one. It's a you got to give us 50.
Yes.
What does the face-offing actually add that this movie couldn't have just been if it was a normal cops and robbers?
Friend. And this is the curation, right?
Yeah.
The pod gets a new face.
Yeah.
And of all the films we've done under this theme, it's like there's always something a little of the implausible, or you got to kind of reach a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Eyes Without a Face.
Yeah.
You got to reach a little bit on the science, the medicine behind what they're doing.
Yes.
This is this is ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. And you pointed to some of the things that this plot doesn't work.
Yeah.
If they don't leave these gaping holes or incompetence.
We can't tell Margaret Cho that could be bad. And you're like, but why?
Yeah.
Why is there no memo? Why is there no envelope like, hey, if I don't come back in 4 days, this is what happened. Here's the videotape. Hey, warden of the Supermax prison. Here's what's going on. They're already doing human rights abuses everywhere.
Right.
I think it's okay. Also, the brother coughs it up within like the second time he talks to his maybe brother. So,
yes.
Again, to your point, it's ludicrous. It's bizarre. It's painfully stupid. What's the additive value of it?
The added value, I think, is it's so outlandish that it matches with these outlandish characters.
Yes. That is true. There is an element, like, just even between that and the weird magnet boots, like, there's just enough, like, bizarre, because this era, this was a movie we saw a lot. I mean, this is Speed. This is Nick of Time. This is every Harrison Ford joint in this era, right? Lawman chases down bad guy, whatever. This was the kind of movie we wanted. Big fucking action cops and robbers movies, right? To your point, all of those movies, it'd be hard for me to like kind of fully separate them, right? Witness is one of these. You could go through a list of all these movies. There ain't one like Face Off.
No. There's not. Everything about this is so over the top.
Yes, that little drop of science fiction swirled in does truly give it a little carte blanche to become way more bizarre.
Anything. And this go around, I was really honing in on all the ways that this movie is just crazy over the top. Like at the very, very beginning, when we get the flashback to the inciting incident where Sean Archer's son is gunned down by Castor Troy.
Yeah.
Like, it's so melodramatic. The score for this movie, the music in Face Off, is one of the things that it's like, on some level, I could never take this seriously, just with the score alone. Because there's some scenes that would play a lot more serious if the score wasn't this like really melodramatic. It's weird.
It's kind of weird. A John Woo thing, it feels like. Like, a lot of it is very operatic. Right? So his thing's always, like, you see it a lot, like, when we get to the church, where you're just like, this is the dumbest showdown. Like, why is this a thing? But it
Doves
just, it becomes
flying,
this, like,
billowing, like.
Yeah, but it is. It's just, it's style in score. Or, like, when they invade the Gina Gershon's joint, right? Nick Cassavetes' joint. And the kid has the headphones on. It's just big, swelling classical music to people rolling around doing beautiful kind of choreographed gunfights.
Yeah.
John Woo, to me, has always been like a style-first director. I don't mean that as an insult. Some people will take that as an insult.
It's not meant to be.
But I think he knows what he's really fucking good at, right? And it's those kind of, the fluidity and the kind of rolling motion of his action scenes, right? Where it's so smooth, but then still fucking hits you like a sledgehammer. He's great at that. And I think part of that is you sacrifice reality. Like, there's nothing about Face Off that screams reality. Like, every fucking moment on the boat at the end of that movie, you're like, this is the dumbest way to do this kind of a scene, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's way more fun than what it would really look like if two fucking 40-year-old men were fighting on a boat. Like, you know, this is the better version of that. And so I think even that opening, right, the melodrama of the kid getting shot, and just like a perfect encapsulation of like John Woo versus a lot of like directors who were doing these movies of the era in America, at least. That opening where, you know, would you suck my tongue? She's like,
Oh
yeah.
my God.
And then they're like, he's putting a helicopter on the wing, Castor Troy's throwing her out, and then he's doing the like it's fucking crazy. It is fucking crazy shit. And when they get in that building, there were at least 3 scenes where I was like, you can still see the wires on the extras who are getting yanked back when they're hit with the shotgun. And then Nick Cage and Travolta's fight, they're sliding and rolling, and it's sparks everywhere. And then when he gets fucking, you know, karate'd and just blown away by the jet engine, you're like,
and
this is
cartoonishly
fucking,
so.
Just shoot me because I don't give a fuck. And you're just like, it's kind of this perfect middle ground where the bizarre, overly stylized John Woo choices are working in perfect sync with another artist, right? Nick Cage, who always goes bizarre, overly stylized choices. And you're like, yes, I see it. I see it. But that opening, dude, when they're fighting in that warehouse, is like, this is insane. It's all jumps and slides and shots and rolls. And then Nick Cage getting hit by the jet engine. It kind of comes together in this perfect moment. And right off the bat in the movie, you're like, this is going to be his box with like chiclets and drugs and his golden guns and shit. I was like, that's cool. I love that.
Why?
It's going to be a movie that just says, just have fun. This is a cartoon. This is a cartoon. This isn't Die Hard. It's not one of those, right? It's not like a, you know, take it, like be worried about the stakes. This isn't Jack Ryan. These are fucking cartoon guys. And it's fun. And you know it right away. And then we start getting into this like weird like 30 minutes of procedural where Travolta's like, give me a time alone in a room with him.
They could have cut that, honestly.
Just fucking cut the faces. I'm telling you, the biggest flaw of this movie is that they didn't cut out like 40 minutes. Because they have that weird like Travolta debating if he should do it or not. But they don't like really address. They kind of have some moments where Travolta's like the one at the end when he's in Nick Cage's face and he's telling his wife, he's like, this is what my mission was. And Cage plays it great where he's like, God, it sounds like insane to say this out loud between every breath. And I was like, yes, because it's the dumbest fucking plot ever. And Travolta does a little of that, like, what? And he's like, so you're telling me I got to lie to my wife, my family, everything that matters? And he like a second later goes, okay, I'll do it. And I was like, this isn't like a saves the cat, like we need that like Willy won't he phase. Also, your act 2 starting like 45 minutes to an hour into the movie. Just cut all that. The other weird thing in the movie that just does not work at all, but they felt like they needed to add, was this kind of parallel journey of ghost sons. So like Nick Cage's character being forced, he just like banged his wife. And Castor Troy's like, I gotta go to the office and do my good cop thing, which is inexplicably weird, like turn. And they're like, we gotta go to the son's grave. So he's holding Mrs. Archer at the grave of the kid he murdered. And he's like, he took our boy. What the fuck? Right? Like, really, what the fuck? And then Archer and Castor Troy's body learning that Gina Gershon's son is his son, who's almost the same age as the son he lost would have been, and doing the like face rub thing.
Oh my God, the face rub thing. Why?
So this was something apparently Cage and Travolta spent a couple weeks together, like learning, like deciding on how the cadences would be. And they each wanted to come up with a couple like physical touchstones. So Castor Troy's was like tying the shoes of his brother.
Yeah.
Travolta has the face rub. Yeah, it was like a weird, I was like, don't touch my face.
Don't touch my face like that. It's weird.
I was like, that's one of those weird, like, you know, Scientology guy and Nick Cage are like, this is a human thing. You're like, nope, humans don't do that to each other.
No one does.
You don't walk up and rub your fucking greasy fingers on my face. Like, what are you fucking doing? That's disgusting. But he does it to like 4 people, almost like it's a Jedi mind trick. And they're like, Dad. But walk me through the like both of them walking in each other's shoes and finding the sons bit.
Yeah,
it's a weird choice for the movie to be like, we need to really sell, because you're like, there's a version of this movie where those scenes are very impactful.
Yes.
This is not that version of the movie.
Yeah, like there is some interesting stuff here that
Yeah.
if the tone of the film were different,
Yeah.
like that would be the thing you would really dig into because
If it was
the
more Twilight Zone than
yeah,
Rocky and Bullwinkle, yes.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I and it goes so hard, right? It's like Archer as Castor Troy gets like almost delusional. Like he sees this kid and he's like, it's like he sees his son.
Yeah, he starts going, oh. Well, if there's this thing where he's like fracturing, he's had some drugs, and like he's
Right.
starting to not. They both are kind of. Well, Castor Troy doesn't deal with this, but Archer does, where like he's starting to like dissociate. There's a lot of him just like waking up with a gun pointed at his own reflection,
Yeah.
right? That kind of culminates when they're both on opposite side, a double-sided mirror
Hmm.
that they can both turn. It's like they're pointing at themselves or they're pointing at their enemy and they fire through. Anywho, again, the movie's trying to do movie shit, but that's
Yeah.
not what it is. This is a universal, like, big action show, right? This is the Indiana Jones, like, action stunt show. But they're trying to do these movie things in the middle. I think that's the problem, is that it adds these extra 30 or 40 minutes where it's like character stuff.
Yeah.
It's not really doing anything because, to your point, they do this choice where it's just pure melodrama.
Hmm.
So that moment with Archer's kid or Castor Troy's kid, I was like, I guess this is supposed to like add like, it kind of reminds, what is it? The Hard Boiled had that thing where like, he's running around with like a baby, and I was like, oh, I guess that makes this scene better. I guess it means that even the bad guys have kids they care about, so that's fine. But also, mom's like pretty excited to grab a gun and start shooting FBI agents.
Yes.
And then at the end, this is fucking crazy. So not only does the wife have to accept all the fucking horseshit he's laid on her, right? That she got banged by Castor Troy, right? In a real like rapey gotcha moment. But that he set her up for that. And then he comes home finally after all this is over in his Travolta body again, hugs them and just goes, but wait, there's more.
Meet our new son.
We're going to adopt Castor Troy's bastard son. And he's going to go live in Mike's room because I don't need the scar anymore. I'm cool to just replace our dead son with this new son who has been raised in essentially a fucking drug hoard. And we'll see if he's okay.
We'll see if he's okay.
What? Like, imagine, and he just looks at his wife and he's like, and she goes, and I was like, there's no way.
That's crazy.
There's no fucking way this woman who's a surgeon is going to put up with this shit. She's going to leave him.
Let's talk about the daughter for a second. Let's talk
She's
about
having her own journey of 1,000 faces.
Little Jamie Archer. I feel for her because
Jamie Archer, this was dirty. She got played dirty by her dad. This is fucking gross. I hate it.
like she's an afterthought. This poor kid. Her brother died.
She's going through her emo phase like we all do, and they're being pricks
she's going
about
through this
it.
Teen thing, and family's difficult, but even more so when your father is so obsessed with avenging the death of his son, his only son.
Yeah, all he does is looks like he doesn't sleep, drinks, and looks at pictures of your brother who's not there.
Right.
So everyone's arrested in the grief of that moment for 6 years when we start the movie. Yeah.
This poor girl. Then your dad comes back and he's suddenly really different.
But like they make it out like she thinks cool different.
Cool different. Well, I mean, she is a teenager. So
yeah, so dad comes in. This is one of those moments. So dad comes in, and this is something they did a lot in the 90s. This was like the same thing they did in Fear, where they're like, here, Reese Witherspoon and her friend are like 14, 15-year-olds, even if they're 16-year-olds. But we're going to overly sexualize them to the max, right? Here they are in bikinis. Here's Reese Witherspoon in the shower. And so right off the bat, you're watching, you're like, nice. And then you're like, wait, what? Like, I know the actress is older, but like the character's supposed to be, what, 16?
right.
And then we're watching her like get fingered on a roller coaster, and you're like, what? So they do this scene where Jamie Archer's just ripping a dart in her room, talking on her phone, and she's in her little panties, she's got her shirt on, and you're like, It's one of those things I always want to ask these old 90s ad execs is like, who is that scene for?
Yeah.
Right? Because that's one of those you're like, oh, well, the men in the audience presumably are dads and uncles, right? That are like, fuck yeah, Cage and Travolta, blow 'em up movie. They're pumped to see this guy's 16-year-old daughter
If
in
that.
this weird, like, sexy-ish outfit to them. Like, it's a
Gross.
real, like, progenitor, like, you know, now all the porn websites have, like, stepdaughter shit.
Oh my God. It's
So
out of
who knew?
Okay, it's out of control.
Yeah,
So
who knew that, like, this was, like, a real, like, underbelly?
I mean, clearly somebody knew. Or
I will say, as a teenage boy, and my parents were divorced, there was always the thought, you're like, what if mom marries a dude, and he's got super hot daughters, and they just live across the hall from me? So there's something in men that, like, thinks, like, I don't know, but then
It's clearly
when
a
Travolta
thing.
comes in as her father, after he, like, already is pimping in the driveway, was like, oh, I love to watch you walk away, and she's like, all right, this is weird, my husband. When he leans on that door and he leans in for a cigarette and, like, almost, like, sniffs the nape of her neck,
yeah,
like, it's repulsive.
it's gross.
Because you're like, he goes, the plot thickens. And he like, and you're like, ooh, and he's like, Papa's got a brand new bag. And she kind of smiles and you're like, nope,
You're like, no.
nope, do not like this. Don't like this at all. And then they do this weird thing where they're trying to let us know that Castor Troy's like becoming good by being in Archer's face. Because now real life rapist, Danny Masterson, is playing a rapist in the movie.
That has aged so well.
It has, because she's just like, all right, bye, thanks for the date. And he's like, your dad's the Invisible Man. And he starts grabbing her. She's screaming, like, in the middle of a neighborhood. And he's like, that's fine. I'll just do the assault in the driveway. And Castor Troy goes and beats him up. And then
Cathartic.
He's like, if you dress like it's Halloween, the ghouls will try to get in your pants. Here's a knife to cut his dick off. And you're like,
No, because do you have protection?
what? Oh, yeah, protection, too.
And she's
he
like,
gives her like a butterfly knife. And then he sits down and he goes, I'm the king. And it's like, is that a moment where we're supposed to be on Castor Troy's side thinking he's a good man? Or who, again?
Yeah, they try to do some character
stuff. The
stuff
dramatic
here.
moments, the character moments don't matter because Castor Troy is a character we've seen definitely would do rapes, would definitely hurt people, would definitely kill people's children. It's weird to add the, like, just by being in Travolta's body, by Archer's body and house, he's somehow, like, learning to be a person, or that, like, I didn't mean to kill your son. Like, there was a moment where we're like, oh, that forgives it. That's cool. You were going to kill a lot of people's sons and daughters when you blew up L.A.
You were going to kill me with my son in my arms. You know?
So you wanted my son to look at my dead body.
Yeah, you wanted my son to watch you murder me.
You just wanted him to have therapy, not, a dad. That's cool. It's such a fuck.
It's crazy.
Movie just makes crazy wild choices.
Yes. This movie is crazy. It's bonkers.
It's crazy. But again, I think that's
it's so fun.
The movie, I don't fault them for still trying to pretend they're making a movie and not an action reel.
Yeah.
But I think this is where the problem of why it's 2 hours and 18 minutes long comes in. Is like, brother, we're not earning anything here. The only thing that moment gets us is that later, Jamie does shoot her dad when she thinks it's Castor Troy. And then he grabs her and starts licking the side of her face. And she stabs him in the leg. Which really doesn't affect much, because then they do all these epic, grandiose boat fights and shit. They're literally fighting all over an entire county. But I think that's the thing. Take out some of these, like, air quote story moments, right?
We can shave a little off the procedural stuff for sure at the beginning.
There's no these kind of moments of like a criminal in a cop's body and a cop in a criminal's body. They're not giving us anything. Literally nothing. It's like the moment when they're doing the epic jail escape. And again, this is like a movie where it's like, if people just had handcuffs, this whole movie can't happen, right? They fry the dude on the chair, Chris Bauer's character, right? And they roll him on the floor, and they're like, all right, next one. And he's able to burn a guy with a cigarette and just be like, I didn't fuck your wife, help me. And he gets up and just can start fighting again because they didn't secure the body. of the shocked criminal. And there's a moment where they're fighting out together. Nick Cage is definitely maiming with acid and shooting cops, but not killing them. He tells Dubov to stop doing that, and that's okay. And there's a moment where, like, Dubov is hanging on by a barrel of a gun, and Archer's like, I'll help you. And it's like, but isn't that guy, like, a really bad criminal? Like, is this, like, an honor amongst thieves things? Like, the movie's trying to have these moments of, like, empathy and, like, walking a mile in another man's shoes. And you're like, but the magnetic shoes man is a terrorist and a bad guy and murderers and child murderers. And I don't think I have to walk a mile in his shoes to judge the fuck out of him. Right? Like, what?
Well, and we haven't seen enough of what has been going on in the day-to-day prison life to get a sense that he's started to identify with these people.
Yeah, we could have done more prison. They kind of hint at, like he's sinking into Castor Troy as a role. Because there's that great moment where he's getting jumped. And the brother looks at him, and in a weird, like, he's like, that may not be my brother. As if there's any universe where this guy could imagine the insane fucking plot we're watching.
Yes.
That's fucking crazy. There is this, like, you know, you look into the eyes of a loved one, right? That's a body snatchers thing, and you're like, something's off. But also, you're like, yeah, we did just get fucking shot off of a plane. Maybe it's just that.
Well,
but he's watching, and he's
in
like,
a coma, traumatic brain injury.
My brother might have been face-offed. I think my brother's face-offed. I can't trust him. And he does the big Nick Cage smile and starts fighting. I'm Castor Troy. And, like, all of a sudden, he's embracing the role a little too much and almost kills Dubov with a tray. Anyways, bizarre.
It's wild. This movie is wild. And there's, for everything that's, like, ridiculous, like Castor Troy being in the coma, like you mentioned, he's a prisoner. Even though he's in a coma, he is still in custody.
Not secured at all.
But he's not secured at all. I mean, that's ridiculous.
There's no guard posted.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's crazy shit.
But just when you're thinking, like, what the fuck? Then they give you this great moment of Nicolas Cage as Castor Troy.
Yeah.
Getting up without a face.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And terrorizing the doctors.
To, like, what is memorable and cool. And there is a theory of filmmaking. Me and my friends talk about this a lot now that we're starting a movie.
Yeah.
Where we'll talk about scenes, and it's, you know, real purist is like every scene should matter. It should move the story forward and the theme and this and that. And I go, sometimes you just drop in something because you fucking think it's funny, because you think it's cool, because you think, and we talk about this moment a lot, when the movie's over and everyone's walking out to go to the restaurant or bar to talk about what they just watched. Or, like, the best movies are the ones where me and my friends, our movie theater doesn't have anything, right? So we just walk out to the parking lot, and at, like, midnight, we'll stand for an hour by our cars discussing the movie. Sometimes you just add in moments and scenes that you're like, that's going to get brought up in the parking lot before you can go home because it's cool and memorable. Does it matter to the story or the movie? No. Does the face-offing matter at all to the plot of this movie? Not really. It could be a brain swap. It could be a magical ticket, right? It could be a child's play. Like, there's any number of ways this could happen. The face-offing doesn't matter at all, nor does the movie really pursue this. There's a weird moment where it's like, does Archer like being Troy, and does Troy like being Archer? Whatever. The movie always is like, what will be fucking cool and memorable? And that's, I think, the benefit of these fucking wild choices, right? Like, there's a moment where we're just watching Castor Troy, who now is Archer, and he's like, wait, I can just have a son again and bang Gina Gershon? And he's like, is this the worst life? I just get to do drugs and bang Gina Gershon?
Maybe this is like how I should have been living all along.
Castor Troy's like, oh, I have some stability and respect, and, like, maybe I like being a Gestapo FBI agent. Like, weirdly, they might be better in each other's lives. And the movie is like, no, we're not going to explore that at all. We're just going to leave that out there for you to talk about. And also, I think there is another kind of element of movies where sometimes you can just ask the question flippantly, and maybe even accidentally at times in this movie, not have an answer and just let the audience talk about that.
Yeah.
I would say, though, if you're not going to do any of that, shrink the fucking movie.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because it's cool. Because, like, when Castor Troy, when she's like, he'll be at the funeral, and he walks in on the beach with the doves, and it's like, so his plan is to shoot out his own body in a church with his wife there and possibly a ton of his FBI coworkers. Like, what?
This is a dumb plan.
What? Yeah, his wife just like somehow being able to accept any of this because of a blood test. Like, it's all so stupid.
I did like the tooth. I did like the tooth story.
The what?
The tooth story when Sean is still in Castor's body, and he tells the story about the broken tooth of their first date. And Nicolas Cage's performance it's like he's able to rein it in, and it's like this really beautiful emotional story.
Yeah.
About a husband and wife's first date that nobody, you know, that there's no way that Castor Troy would know this. And the way it's delivered is like he's feeling it.
It's great. It is great. And then we just get back to wild shit.
Yes, and then we go back to
new head of the FBI's anti-terrorist thing is walking in with two clear criminals into the hospital to shoot a guy. But then he just goes, I'm jealous, and he leaves, and no one's like, hey, why is the FBI agent hanging out with these two like most wanted guys? Like, that's weird. Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
It's a movie that just says shut that shit off. Shut that off. Don't you want to see them gunfighting with doves everywhere and rolling around and sound effects and yeah.
You do.
Yes, I do. Do you want to see them on boats fighting and all that shit? Yeah. Yep, that's what I want. And weirdly, like, I love the moment when Travolta's like, and he starts cutting the face like, you know, you're going to have to live and see my face every day. Because it's crazy, because then the cops show up, the FBI, and they're like, Archer, are you okay? To Nick Cage. I'm like, oh, so we're all just accepting this. Like, this is a world where no one told them this insane plot. No one's seen video evidence. Just the wife's like, hey, this is crazy. I'm a surgeon. My husband is in Castor Troy's skinnier body. And they'll just go, I knew it. I fucking knew it. It's like, all right, if you don't care, I don't care, right? That's the handshake agreement of this movie.
Yeah.
Right? It's like when you find yourself at like a Wendy's. Right? You're like out with your friends and you're like, we should get dinner. And instead of going to like an actual nice dinner place, you just go to Wendy's and you're like, if you don't care, I don't care. I'll eat like shit. I'll eat like trash. I'll do this to my body and brain. That's what Face Off is. And then you start eating your Baconator and your Frosty and you're like, this is pretty great.
Yeah.
I don't need to do this often, but it's pretty fucking great.
But when I do, I'm going to enjoy every second.
When I eat fast food, I'm getting like 5,000 calories worth. I'm getting my fucking money's worth. I'm doing all of it. And that's what this is. This is just a gluttonous display.
Yes.
Of things that I think are just wantonly cool.
Eat a peach for hours, you know?
Oh my God. Nicolas Cage's line in this, I could eat a peach for hours. And then it's just like, would you suck my tongue and thank me for it? Like, that was great because Gina Gershon brought it later. She's like, all I ever heard from you was fuck you and suck my tongue. And I was like, oh, that's like a thing with him. Also, that FBI agent, she was a plant agent.
Yeah. Oh, no, she was down.
She was like, if I'm undercover, I'm fucking undercover. Yeah. She got in on that quick.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. If Nicolas Cage said to me, would you, if I said you could suck my tongue, would you be grateful? I would be grateful.
I think I would too.
I'm just going to put it out there.
I think I would too, just out of respect. Yeah. Just out of respect for the man and his work. I'd probably do it too.
It's but so crazy. Just,
I don't give a fuck. Pull the
trigger. Who else could do this? Nobody else could do this.
It's just fucking awesome. And
this doesn't work. This doesn't work without him.
Incredible.
Yes.
And his dance, like, we were fucking rolling. Him just kind of doing the shrug as he throws the woman out of the plane. It's just, he's got these golden guns. Like, this is comic book cartoon man bullshit. And it's great. And me and my wife just sat there smiling and laughing and saying, what the fuck? Like, it's one of those movies you go, what the fuck? What the hell's going on? You say that like 100 times watching it. But you don't care. And you're not going to change the channel. You're just like, this is great. That's a very old man thing to say, change the channel. But it's just, it's wonderful. It's so good. And I don't know that there's a way to really like put a pin on it. Except I would like to, I don't know that we fully like dove into we talked about Jamie Archer. We didn't really talk about Eve Archer.
We didn't. You're right.
What
and we
she
should.
is put through in this movie.
This poor woman.
Is fucking crazy. And there's no way she can ever, like, when this movie's over, this is ending in a divorce court, right?
Yeah, she needs to run for her life.
Yeah, so he says it's over. I got him. He's already been like the shittiest husband, apparently, for 6 years chasing this guy. He's like, I'm going to take a desk job, whatever. Like a week later, he's like, psych, just kidding. I have to do like a weird mission. I can't tell you. I can't fucking tell my own wife what I'm doing. Anytime you're doing that, that's a red flag. Don't do it. Nick Cage comes back, and we don't also talk about how Castor Troy's got like some weird game where like he went and bought like 100 candles and made lobsters and whatever just to bang Archer's wife. And seems like she loved being married to Castor Troy.
Yeah, she had the best sex of her life.
Right. In this very rapey kind of fantasy, she seemed very stoked.
But some people have that fantasy, and it turns out Eve Archer does.
Well, I don't even think it's a fantasy because she didn't fucking know. It can't be a fantasy if you don't know.
But it is now.
Well, that's like one of those, yeah, like if I slipped and fell on like a butt plug and I was like,
Oh.
Right? Like, I didn't know, but now I do.
But yeah, this is bringing up a great question. What happens in this marriage going forward? Now that she's had a taste of real passion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of good sex.
Yeah.
What happens now? Because I don't think that the real Sean Archer can deliver.
Hey, do you want to order Papa John's and watch Jeopardy? And she's, I think it's almost more interesting if she knows and she's like, fuck it, I'm on his side.
Right.
He beat the brakes off and I'm out.
I've never had it so good. Why would I go back?
You know what I'm saying? And that's but when she's asked, when the guy who kills her son comes into her bedroom when she's out of the showers, terrifies her. And he's like, I'm your husband. You've been banged by the guy who killed our son for real. We're going to be in a shootout at the end. You're going to watch your daughter get licked. And then at the end, the final, as if this woman could not have been through any more. When
so much trauma.
He brings the fucking murderer's son home at the end. That's not going to be a smooth, happy thing. This is not going to be a fucking the end of the Waltons. Good night, Jim Bob, or whatever. Like, this woman has gotten the fucking rawest of deals.
She needs to get out of there.
She needs to fucking leave this man. This is not an American hero. This is a fucking poor decision-making bastard. You gotta leave this man.
All the way around. Yeah, she needs to run for her life.
He shows very poor judgment constantly. Another fun thing I just thought of, we didn't talk about how Nick Cage killed his boss in his office with a karate-induced heart attack. That was amazing.
That was amazing.
He also kills a ton of FBI agents everywhere.
So many agents.
Just, dude, I feel like you could talk about this movie for hours. You could talk about Face Off for hours. Because it's just every fucking frame, every choice is such like the weirdest amalgam of events.
It's fascinating.
It's fascinating.
It's fascinating.
Also,
in a
while
way,
being kind of devoid of thought. Like it's almost as if they give you like those tests we had to do in high school where like, here's a sentence, write a paragraph or two about it. They'll add just enough where it's like, hey, we're doing narrative stuff. And it's like, well, no, you're prompting me to write the narrative for you.
Yeah.
You're prompting me to add subtext and character to your explosion movie. But it's fucking great.
It's a good
like
time.
Legitimately like one of the most fun movies you could ever turn on. And we talk about the popcorn shut your brain off movie. That's what this is, but there is just enough weird moments where you can still do this. Like afterwards, you can still ask questions in a way that you can't with like Critters 3.
So many questions
that you'll hear Carmelita and I talk about. That's a dumb movie where there's like no questions.
Right.
This is a dumb movie where there's still like you can imagine like, oh, this could have been like a Twilight Zone episode.
Definitely.
Like there's a version of it that's kind of, okay, I can do that thought experiment. I got all the fun shit. And now if I want to, I can do that stuff. They didn't, but I could. It's a fascinating movie.
It's fascinating.
That's it. for Face Off. That's it for Carmelita's guest curation. The pod gets a new face. What a wonderful fucking month. You're the best. Thank you for helping us out here. Guys, you'll hear Carmelita doing at least one, maybe two whole franchises on the October Mega Marathon. We kind of spoiled it. Critters is one. I guess I'll just spoil it now. Also, we'll be doing the X Pearl Maxine trilogy. Get some new stuff in there. So October is going to be amazing. Carmelita will be back for that. It's been great to have you this month. We're excited as hell to have you back for October.
It was a pleasure, my friends.
The best. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. A little business before we go. Make sure you go to patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Subscribe to the YouTube, the TikTok, all the socials, Film Alchemist. You know where to find us. The email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Go to misfitparade.net to see what we're working on. Go to Looper to watch me do some video content work there. And find Carmelita on X, Twitter. X,
I'm not
X
calling
sounds
it X.
terrible. I've tried it.
It's dumb. It's dumb.
Twitter and Letterboxd @Carmelita Says. Thank you again. It was a pleasure as always.